Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2019 May Staff question and answer session. I'm Miski. I'm joined here by a lovely group of staff members from the server. They can go ahead and introduce themselves. We'll start here with Julian or Escapezar.
Oh heck, I'm capping the flag. Hello, I'm Julian / Escapezar. And
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. We have Nohawks in the call.
What's up? I'm Nohawks. I'm here. Hello.
Hey, Nohawks. Next up we have Matt Versions here.
Hey.
Okay. Pudgy.
Hello.
And then we have Red Slime.
Hey, people.
And finally, we are joined here by Wintergreen3.
Hello.
I'm gonna go ahead and hand it off to Nohawks here, and we can get started with the Q&A.
Yes, hello. So we had the idea to make a Q&A because we hadn't had one in ages. And we started a forum thread where you could submit questions, and we went through all of those questions and started answering them. So we kind of want to explain to you what we thought about the questions, what the answers to those are. So we divided the questions into several categories. The first one is about the CTF team system, then gameplay, especially engineer, scout, and stalemates. Necro, Dwarf, and Elf is another section. General stuff about Brawl management and CTF. And at last, we have some fun stuff. So the first section would be teams. Is it possible to enforce a match activity within teams by creating rules requiring teams to play an official match every few months? So that's the first question. And we had kind of difficulties answering that because essentially that's the way it is right now. We have a rule in place that you have to play a match every 2 months, 3 months in order to not get inactive.
Yep.
But we're having the feeling that teams are still disbanding, so I don't know if that will actually help upholding activity in the team scene.
Yeah, I guess the general struggle here is that this rule has been in place. Maybe it hasn't been like the most enforced rule we had, but teams were still like kind of just ignoring the rule and just disbanding anyway, and like going inactive and like not really caring, which obviously isn't ideal. But if that's a rule that we start like hard enforcing, what'll end up happening is the amount of teams will kind of just get very small, and maybe they'll be more active in general. But I don't know, I think we're at a healthy amount of teams right now. It's just we need some incentive to kind of require teams to play matches more, or give them more reason to play, maybe than require them.
Right. Like maybe like some sort of like reward system, like a tourney with like get now tags, custom tourney tag or whatever. Like, but even with the rise of like PPMs, like that's kind of like unofficial matches, people are kind of the people that are like really active in the team scene are kind of satisfied with this in a way. So I mean, if we have other ways to bring about the activity of like official matches, as Miski mentioned, then yeah.
Yeah, we tried to create tourneys and stuff like that to boost team activity, but sadly they usually take so long that teams disband during the time. So we're a bit clueless what to do with the team scene, because currently it looks rather like PPMs are more popular because it allows you to be a bit more free. That also brings us to the next question: if there will be a team tourney this year, later this year. And so we haven't planned any so far because, as I said, looking at the previous tourney, it didn't go that well because teams started disbanding right in the middle, and teams even weren't able to agree on a date, on a time. And we could try something like a PPM tournament, but that already has been done for one part, and for the second, apparently it wasn't that successful either. So we're kind of on the fence.
It was actually a fail.
It was a fail. Was it? It didn't reach anything. Any conclusion?
It's still waiting on conclusion. And I want to add on to this, kind of the general team activity thing. A lot of the quote unquote regulars, like the CTF regulars, have been on CTF for years now. Like And so a lot of us are, well, growing up. And as such, we're getting into college, getting into more busier lifestyle, some of us getting jobs and whatnot, and getting a little bit more freedom too. So that means a lot of us just have just more things that we have to do. So I think that's a part of the reason why we see a little bit of the drop in activity is just because people are busier.
Yeah, if I can comment real quick on the tournament thing specifically. We have a bit of a unique issue with CTF that not a lot of other games or tournaments in general have. And that's the fact that we have a pretty even split between EU and NA player base, especially regarding teams, which makes doing any sort of like hard scheduling, like, hey, this is when your match is kind of thing, is very difficult. So if you look at like any other tournaments, any other games, you have set times you play, or like you agree on a time, but there's like a certain time span in which you have to have the match.
Yep.
Now that's very hard to do on CTF just because of number one, the amount of people on teams in CTF. You require at least 8 players generally to play a tournament match. And then different time zones. So if we could find some way to kind of enforce like a short period of time where you have to have your match, then that could really help. But I guess we're open to ideas on how to do that because that's something we've struggled with for sure.
Maybe we could try out something with smaller team sizes, maybe something super small. Wasn't there a 1v1 tournament at one point?
Yeah, I hosted one a little while back that was pretty good. Yeah.
I mean, that's definitely one way to do it, like smaller teams that are like really active, or maybe even just like really, really big teams. So like if some people can't make it, at least some can.
Yeah.
Mm.
Or we asked the people what or how they would revamp the team system in general. I, for my part, have no idea how we could relive in that, to be honest, given our player counts.
Yeah, I think encouraging like new players to join team is also a big part of it. Because what Ningeek mentioned was like a lot of old players like phasing out, aren't too involved anymore. But the flip side of that is we're just going to continue to lose players unless new players are getting involved in teams. Which with like the skill cap on CTF where it is right now, it's kind of hard for a new player to be like anywhere close to competitive on like a decent team at the moment.
Yeah.
So.
Now, hopefully, we can see that changing with meta shifts and updates and all that stuff. Because and we'll get to this later, but when the meta is so stale for so long, all the people that's been playing longer, well, is more used to it, and so it's hard for new players to get, as Miski said, up to competitive level. So there's a lot of various factors going into why teams aren't active and what ways we have to improve and whatnot. It's a lot to consider.
All right, I think that does it for that question.
I think that also wraps up the entire team question, because the last question about teams was if there are any plans to reform the team scene in order to better suit the smaller active player base on CTF. And yeah, it's pretty much because we don't get enough new players in, or we do, but we don't get them to play in matches. And older people start growing up, as evidenced by us. And yeah, it's difficult. If you have any good ideas, then please let us know. If you have any ideas on how to reform the team system, we would really appreciate that. Okay, Miski, do you want to continue with the next section?
Yeah, I can do gameplay here. Alright, so starting off with the first question in the gameplay section, it's going to be, what is the staff team looking at next in terms of class reworks, or are there none planned? I'm just going to leave this one open if anyone wants to answer, because I know we've been discussing quite a bit of stuff.
Yes, I mean, with the release of Scout and Engineer, some cool things with that. Definitely not done there, I don't think. Like, I think we could continue like tweaking both of those classes, and definitely on our mind at the moment. Even with if version 2, you want to talk a little about Elf, as we were like just going over that.
Oh yeah, recently we've been going through Elf ideas, trying to work out what the community want, and I'd say we've made good progress on that, but we still have a bit more work to do, and hopefully we'll be asking the community and what they want it to be.
Yeah, so like mainly like the tweaks that everyone suggested, even 915's suggestion in like implementation of the old wind element would like really work. So we definitely want to get that stuff out, and then even like give out like polls on other related like suggestions that the entire community could give feedback on.
Yeah, the looking for feedback was pretty successful, I feel. Like putting out polls and testing stuff directly in game. As we said, we will focus a bit on Elf, trying to tweak that a bit. Definitely Necro, because we already had a plan for Necro, which is based off, I think it was Chaos, like the being a mob type of rework instead of
Yeah, I believe
spawning
that
one.
was originally his idea.
Yeah, and we'll touch more on these stuff later. We'll go more in depth on these big class stuff. So, also we also have Dwarf is another one.
Yeah.
We're looking at that as well for sure, and possibly Assassin. That's a little bit low priority, I think, but it's there in our back of our minds. See if we can do something with that.
Brad, maybe you can evaluate on that. Why is it important, Assassin, with the blocking?
Assassin has a very crucial game function in the game, which is blocking, and we are of course looking at upgrading the game to 1.13 or 13. And as some of you might know, blocking is completely removed from I think 1.9 on. So if we were to actually update CTF to a newer version than 1.8, we would have to find a solution to somehow replace the blocking, because it simply doesn't exist in the other game versions, and that's something to work out if we do want to move forward with upgrading the game.
Yeah, and shielding definitely isn't a viable replacement. So, yeah, it's interesting. I think that pretty much answers that question. I guess we're always looking at like changes and like what to do next. Like we're never gonna like stop looking at how to balance the game. So there's always gonna be like reworks and stuff like that planned. It's just a matter of how much work we can put in, get done, and also we have to get feedback from you guys on what you want. Next question is, do you plan on adding, or are you thinking about at least a new healing class, with medic being the only healing class? I guess I can throw this one over to Ningeek actually, since he is a medic main.
Yeah, and I thought of, I definitely, yeah, I definitely like an idea of a new healing class to contrast medic some. We posted a few months back an idea of a medic rework, and it's gotten some improvement, and that's definitely, I think, something that could be looked at. The reason why we need a medic rework is because since one of the most OP abilities in the game is by far medic's healing, like regen 4 or 5 or whatever, and instant regeneration of items. It's crazy. So we need to balance that a bit while still making it strong, and then we can consider adding a new healing class. I'm thinking like maybe like a ranged healing class or something, but that's farther down the road. That's after we get stuff like Dwarf and Necro and all that stuff figured out. So it's in the back of our heads, but not priority.
One thing that's worth mentioning too, is that Dwarf is like the one class where we kind of like don't really have like any idea what we want to do. So like any of this kind of stuff could like end up potentially falling onto like Dwarf as a class or something, depending on how it goes. Because I think that's the one where we like don't really have an idea,
We created a document gathering all the ideas from the forums that we got, because we already asked the people for their input on Dwarf. And Dwarf is currently on our high priority list, so we're looking through the list and trying to build a class around that. Nothing concrete though, so because we just had the update and we're trying to decide on the content for the next update.
And for the healing class, like, did you guys mention engineer?
Oh yeah, engineer has healing, yeah.
Yeah, like even if we like tweak that a bit or buff it up, like that also has potential to like be something more than it currently is. But I mean, as is now, it's like it works. So just an idea.
Yeah, there's more healing options available in the game, but nothing quite as strong as restore.
Right.
Sure.
By the way, I just want to throw in one quick thing. If you have follow-up questions to whatever we are saying, feel free to ask them, but we'll be going through them at the end. So it's probably best for you to ask them at the end, and we'll go through all sensible questions and answer those then. Because we don't want this to be a reading session. We kind of also want to have interactions with you guys.
Yeah, and those can go in the community Discord or the stream chat. We have someone looking at both, and we'll round those up and get to them towards the end. Okay, next question. Oh, this is an interesting one, and I kind of want to get everyone's input on this one.
Oh my goodness.
If Soldier never existed, what do you think CTF would be like? I mean, I guess I can just start with this. I don't think CTF would be nearly as popular if Soldier never existed. Because Soldier was like the capping class. Maybe like Ninja, maybe Chemist for a little bit, but Soldier is the capping class for so long. And you used to like log in and there'd be so many soldiers on every team with like old maps. Castle, like Waterfall, like without Soldier, like those maps would have not been enjoyable to play like in the slightest. So I just think the game wouldn't be nearly as popular.
It wouldn't be that interesting either. I think a lot of fun is when you okay, so some people might not find this any fun, but I kind of like trying to chase the flag carrier, which is a soldier, and trying to catch up to them, and because of the high mobility of soldier. So if there wasn't any soldier in game, you would essentially have something like Chemist, who is tanking and taking the flag and running away, and that's kind of a bit boring in my opinion. So having a very mobile class like soldier, is
And I think another thing with Soldier is just talking about actual balance of gameplay. It would be far more defensive biased. I mean, right now we already see a more defense biased game. Imagine it without Soldier, the main capping class. It would be ridiculous, I think. And so, just in that aspect, it's going to be not good. I would think, oh, we could have seen a different path of what classes we got released. Maybe someone thought, oh, here's a different capping class, and so we might have gotten another original interesting idea besides Soldier, which would have been interesting. But I think so. I'm pretty happy with Soldier, as a capping class. So
yeah, I agree. Like, and even just like its ability is really unique. Like, no other. It's hard to match that type of mobility with any other class. And talking about the ability, hashtag bring back infinite wall climb. No, seriously though, like I think like infinite wall climb is like super fun, and if we could like rework classes to bring that back, hashtag MC PvP, yeah.
Infinite wall climb. Do you guys really think that infinite wall climb was such a drastic change?
I think that change is actually one of the probably like the best example of like balance we've ever really done to this game.
Yeah,
because it just like prevented like stuff that shouldn't exist, and outside of that doesn't really impact the class at all.
Yeah,
well, it does impact the class, otherwise it would be useless. But it doesn't feel like it's too much in the way.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it accomplished what it was put in to do, and not much else.
At the very least, like you could always just like increase the whatever mana by like a notch or two, but like other than that, yeah, it's pretty solid as is.
Nah, I don't think we should increase the mana. I think it's fine.
In chat, when you're using Soldier, do you feel that the cooldown is annoying, or don't you care at all?
Not at all, personally, and I like main offense.
I mean, the people in chat,
I guess it really depends on the map, honestly.
You can also give your opinion, sure.
It's definitely very map dependent. That's fair.
Yeah, I think it's just annoying on some maps where you just can't. I guess that's just the lack of sponges there, but.
Dude, I can't get all the way to the top of Clock Tower in one mana bar now, dude. Come on!
Well, that actually pisses me off as well.
Alright, I think we're ready to hop over to the next question though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, here's one. I'll throw this one to Pudgy, I think, because she hasn't talked in a little bit here. Is there a new class in progress?
Not right now, no. We're still looking at ideas for like other classes, but we do want to get those fixed before anything else, and we're looking at new class ideas still, but it's not really a priority, and it's kind of put on the back burner for now.
Yep.
Yeah, so valuing reworks a lot over actual like new classes and stuff at the moment for sure. I think it's
People are actually saying, like Swid is saying that she's fine with the cooldown, which is remarkable because she's a soldier main. So it looks like it was a good change.
Alright, there you have it.
I mean, and to add on to that new class thing, another thing to consider is we just had a new class released.
True. We don't want to
it's going to be a little bit before another new class. I mean, hopefully not too long, but it's going to be a little while probably.
Yeah, we want to change some other things first.
Yeah, but I mean that's definitely no like not a disclaimer to like not give out ideas. Like we could always use ideas, even if it's not to make a new class. It could be like to add on to current classes, possibly like even for like engineer or whatever. Like even for reworking Elf's like wind element, like who knows?
I mean, yeah, like we mentioned, like Dwarf is kind of like up in the air at the moment.
Yeah,
like,
Dwarf
if
too.
it's just like a new class idea, like that new class idea could like more or less like become Dwarf kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I mean,
there's a
that's
lot of
literally what happened to Engineer too. I mean, seriously.
yeah.
I mean, we want to be careful with that, but like not to like completely like make a new class, but yeah, because I mean, if we make a new class, then from an old class that like engineer, I mean, I don't know. That's another topic that we're gonna go into.
Yeah,
We're
we
gonna
just
go-
also don't want the game to get like too saturated with classes too quickly.
Sure.
Yeah, because
So
we
I think
know
it's
Hunger Games weenies, right?
Weenie.
Next
Okay.
question.
We kind of. Oh, you go. Sorry.
Next question, maybe.
Oh yeah, that's where I was actually going. We kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. With defense and stuff, but this question is: I've heard complaints about how defense is too strong now. Would you consider adding a new offensive class in the future? If so, what are your ideas for a potential offensive class? So this touches on the defensive bias thing we talked about a little bit earlier, and the new class question we just kind of went over. So I guess here we could just discuss like ideas for potentially what could like break like this like defensive meta or whatever, or like what ideas we would have for a new class for offense.
I mean, yeah, I think it also goes hand in hand with the a new support healing class. You know, something to add on to complement medic, so we can have like if you put a medic on one way offensive push, and then switch to this new medic, to this new healing class, and to shake things up and to give the defense something to think about. Because right now, one of the problems, one of the reasons I think it's defensive biased is because the defense can easily predict what the offense will be, right? It can think, oh, well, the meta is soldier heavy medic, and maybe you can go on chemist there too now. But if we can add, another offensive medic, offensive healing class, as well as rework elf, so it can be more potent on offense, then we can have more changes, and offensive can shake things up a bit and give defense more to think about. So I think that's a good way to approach, challenging that this very defensive biased meta that we're in right now.
We have to keep an eye on the fact that if you create a healing class at all, that it will also be used on defense. Maybe it's better if it's a ranged offense healing class, because that way you could heal your mates from a bit further away, and it's better. It would suit better on offense than on defense. But in general, in my opinion, it's really hard to make a specific offense healing class. But we'll have to see how that turns out.
Yeah, it's definitely tricky. Okay, next question. Now this is definitely an interesting one, and this is another one where I think I want to get like everyone's input on. Suppose more generally, where do you think the game sits in terms of balance overall at the moment, and what are the biggest outliers? So, personally, I think you can go. Okay. I think the game's like pretty balanced overall right now, if I'm being completely honest, compared to like some of the spots it's been in the past. I don't think we're like really at all at a bad point right now as far as CTF goes. The biggest outliers for me, I guess, would be Archer and Medic. Restore and Headshot specifically are the two abilities that kind of like are outliers in terms of balance for me.
So it used to be, in my opinion, used to disfavor recovery. Usually ninjas did the recovery job, sometimes pyros. And I hope this is fixed now with the introduction of Scout, because it's specifically meant to be a recovery class. We'll have to see how that turns out with time.
Sorry.
Also, looking at, what was your second one? Archer and?
I said the two abilities that I personally think are like a little bit not balanced are Restore and Headshot.
So
like
Medic and
Restore.
Archer.
Yeah.
I feel, because I'm a bit biased because I'm an Archer main, but I feel abilities like Archer Headshot or even Pyro Insta-Kill were unbalanced, were overpowered, but it was fun to use them, and that kind of goes back to our discussion about having fun abilities, because every class has their own overpowered ability. It is right that you will have difficulties facing some enemies, but you will completely overpower others, and I think that kind of makes up a portion of the fun of the game.
Right.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, for me personally,
yeah,
I agree with both of you, and like I feel like I mean even with the other class, like even with like Dwarf out there, like not in a good spot. Like I think Necro honestly is like the one that needs is the most out of place. Like it doesn't really. I feel like it's just a bad heavy. Like even that then like I don't know. I could just use a lot of work. Everything else like at least has a little tiny spot. Like even Dwarf, like it has a little spot in the flag room. Like
Like a niche
even
where
though,
it fits. Yeah.
right. But yeah, even with
the worst classes on those that are overpowered, the worst classes are those that are completely underpowered and are totally boring to play.
Yeah.
Like Dwarf. Rarely used.
And with like Medic and the Restore and Archer Headshot, like those are definitely outliers too. But like should that be the outlier, or should like that be what all the other classes should aim toward? Because I mean those are like big abilities, big gameplay abilities, and they're fun.
Very popular classes as well.
Yeah. So just something to think about, keep in mind.
Yeah,
in terms
and to
oh, you go, 100%.
And to add on to that, another thing, one of the things that really stalemates, right? Because I might be lagging right here, I don't know, but
you're good.
Stalemates are like a big thing, just because if two offensive teams get the flag and come back, we're gonna be in a stalemate, and the balance for stalemates it's awful, I think. Because what happens is now you're going to have the heavy offensive guys that are good at tanking, going to be defending, and it's near spawn. And so if need be, your team can respawn and get to you quickly to help you. And so it becomes very hard to get recoveries on them. And of course, we all know this. And so we've pursued different avenues to see, can we, make stalemate shorter or something, either by adding scout to help that with death tag and swapper, or doing the health reduction testing that we had, or we could do Drag's idea or something. But that, to me, stalemates are a big outlier in terms of balance issues.
True. That's that's another topic we'll be talking about. Should we talk about that now, or?
I just want to real quick get does anyone else have input on just their thoughts on like the overall balance of the game right now? If it's good, if it's bad, like where we're at, kind of thing. I guess this is directed at Matt, Pudgy, and Winner. If you guys have any comments before you move on.
I feel like the balance.
Oh, sorry.
I feel like the balance of the game is all right. Just like Miski mentioned, just maybe a few changes to some of the classes like Necro, but overall the balance is perfect in my opinion.
Okay. Winner?
Oh yeah, I agree with NoHawks. I mean, I'm biased as well because I may not. Yeah, I wonder if maybe we should give more classes more abilities like Medic and Archer, or if we should, change Medic and Archer to fit.
Necessarily not more abilities, but maybe making the abilities stronger.
Right.
Yeah, that's fair.
But
yeah, that's kind of what I mean. Yeah.
Speculation right now.
Yeah, I was going to second what Noak said too. Also biased because Medic, but
My bad,
I think having like the really good ability has more. It's a satisfying feeling to have that, I guess, and I do think it's more fun. So having more of that would be nice, and I don't know. I think it would be good.
Shall we move on?
Yep. Okay, so final question of the gameplay section here. What do you think of a class mechanic that can accelerate cooldowns on abilities? So, reduce the amount of time it takes to fill the mana bar, like reduce cooldowns on stuff like swappers, stuff like that.
I really like the idea because it's something original, something we haven't had before. Because most of the time, maybe not most, but very often people have suggestions that essentially just apply a potion effect for X seconds or something. And it's much nicer to find things that are close to vanilla in the game. Something like accelerating cooldowns is not necessarily vanilla, but I think that's also a pretty cool idea. It would have to be embedded in a class that suits that, though. And it should be potent enough. Makes sense.
Yeah, and I just have this out right now. That reminds me of a class idea I saw on the forums a while back called Kinetic. I don't know if any of you saw that, but it's just based on the idea of just you're always moving, and the more you move, the more powerful you are. The kinetic, right? And I think that kind of complements this idea of reducing what is it?
Reducing cooldowns and stuff like that.
Reducing cooldowns and whatnot, right? So maybe we can complement with that, based on this idea of a kinetic, or perhaps like an electric type thinking Pokemon, whatever that pops in my mind, but an electric type based class, all about electricity and whatnot, and I can, for some reason, shorten cooldowns or whatever. So I mean, there's definitely avenues to pursue here that we can do, but I think it goes back to when are we going to actually start pursuing that? Not personally, not going to be anytime soon. Feel free though to do that if you have any ideas. It's something I definitely want to consider on my own time, but yeah.
The interesting thing with that kinetic idea as well, if it's based off of movement, is that makes the class just like significantly better on offense than defense. Like if you think about it, because you're going to be moving a lot more on offense, so that could be an idea for like an offensive support class or something like we mentioned earlier. Because if it's based on movement,
Yep.
and you're going to be like traversing the map with like the rest of your team on offense, there could be some potential there, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that definitely sounds good, especially since with ninjas like really popular because of its mobility. I think classes with more mobility would be fun too.
Okay, we are onto our next section here, which is Engineer, Scout, and Stalemates. Does anyone want to head that section and go ahead and ask the questions? Ningeek, I choose you.
Okay.
Okay, Nin, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, Engineer, Scout, and Stalemate. So the first question is, how do you plan on balancing out Engineer and Scout? Will they be nerfed eventually? Stuff like that. And so, I mean, yeah, I'm personally considering would like to tweak them. I think they are a little bit overpowered, which I want to note. I'm so glad we got it so it's overpowered and not underpowered, and also useful and not useless. Because then, if we get into that position like we did, then it's easier to do slight nerfs or tweaks and stuff like that. Now, the bigger thing that stands out for me is the death tag and how that fits in. If someone wants to take death tag and how that balances in.
Yeah, it's a toughie. It's basically like two big abilities like put into one class, like death tag, and then got the swapping thing. So it's definitely like we had a lot of controversy like putting that thing in and like a version of that in, like something like that. So yeah, that's definitely still like up in the air, to be honest. But
the original idea for the death tag was to be used as in combination with the dwarf with the scout.
Dwarf. Okay.
Yeah, with the dwarf. If you can find one. No, with the scout, because scout is supposed to essentially target the flag carriers. So the idea was that with the death tag, you could make specifically the flag carriers weaker, so you could recover more easily. Now, the issue with the death tag is that now you're using it in every combat situation that you can imagine. And it wasn't originally designed that way, but it turned out to be a bit better than just having one death tag in your inventory. Because that would have forced you to only use it on one person until you get it restored or you die. I'm not quite sure. We'll have to figure out something how to change up the death tag if it really poses an issue. But it's also on our list to do for the next updates.
Again, definitely open to suggestions from the community on that one.
Yep.
So moving on to the next question.
Wait, go back.
Oh. So Skate wants to add something.
All right, so we got going back to Scout. So like something I brought up. I don't think I mentioned it to the community like directly, but like I mean, it definitely feels like this really, really critical role. I mean, for like killing people and like swapping like specifically certain people or whatever, just swapping people and with that death tag. So I was like thinking, I mean, it does that job really well, but how good is its survivability? Like how fun is that doing that for like one time and then like not, it's kind of like Assassin right now. It's actually like really like Assassin.
Glass cannon.
Yeah, basically. So like I was thinking, what if you swap with someone and then like okay, so remove its stake, but you swap with someone and you regain all of your hearts. So you actually, I mean, you're still a glass cannon, but like you could actually, if you're really good at it, you could continue like surviving and swapping, and possibly doing that death tag or whatever the second ability is.
Or you get like some type of like res on a swap or something, so that you don't like initially get like nuked if you like swap on fire out of the flag.
That too, yeah. And even like another idea I tossed out was, I mean, it's not really needed, but it would be a fun ability to have if it, in some sort of extent, like to have a double jump ability for Scout. So I mean, it's like really mobile. It complements that, but I mean, probably like a nerfed version of what it is in the hub. but like
yeah, definitely
something
not what
like
it is in
that.
the hub.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's way too much.
but just an idea to toss out.
For sure.
Am I allowed to move on now? I
Um,
don't get
for
it.
it.
I mean, also with like
Okay.
engineer
Oh,
speed
never
too.
mind.
Like, that's also a bit of controversy. I mean, at least for me, at least, like the way it is, like how much different is it just giving engineer speed 2? Like, I don't know how much does it actually give speed 2 to its teammates? Like, is there a focus on giving it like having that as a support rather than for just itself?
So from what
So-
I've seen in an actual like match setting, because I've played in like PPMs and stuff, the speed 2 for teammates is like significantly impactful on defense.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm not sure if it's like really used in casual, but in PPMs and matches that I've seen, it's pretty useful.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, that's basically it.
Okay. So next question. Still about engineer. Don't you think that the current engineer doesn't really seem like an engineer anymore? And if so, are we going to fix that? Or what do we do to fix that?
Yes,
I'll toss this
I agree.
to Nohawks. Nohawks, I know Nohawks is a big
Oh,
person of this.
that's something that I really did not like with the new engineer thing, because it does not feel like an engineer at all anymore. We kind of try to keep the features we put into classes roughly among the original class name. So obviously we wouldn't give ninja heavy armor or stuff like that. And I feel we went a bit too far with engineer by that, because currently it feels more like demo man.
Yeah, I second that.
So yeah, there was the suggestion to just call it demo man and recreate engineer and tweak it again in a different manner to stick to the original engineer. Not quite sure where that will go. I myself am open to that. But we didn't go into full detail into that yet.
I think if we just like,
yeah.
I think if we just like rename the class, and as long as we like communicate it well, it's not an issue. Like there doesn't have to be an engineer class in the game. Like it's something we can look at for sure. But if we just rename it, as long as we like communicate it well and like let people know, like, hey, this is like the class that was like previously engineer got changed into demo man. I don't think that's like at all an issue.
And
Maybe
I
we should
think
still keep engineer, to be honest.
yeah, and I think it also. I mean, this is something I definitely would like to see community input in, because I mean, it's going to be hard. There's a lot of stops in trying to keep that engineer feel in this game where it's at currently, at least in my opinion. Like, I mean, we saw the issues with old engineer. I think is how campy it is, a lot like how campy Dwarf is, right? And because of that, and also because of its story, it survives very well. So how can we make it so this still does damage, it still is useful, and also still is an engineer feel, and still is balanced? You know, there's a lot of questions, and not an easy question. So that's something. If you have an idea that pops in your head, please share it, and that's something we'll consider. Because I agree too that it's not very engineer-like, but what can you do?
I mean, what is the most essential part of being an engineer?
Building something.
Sorry, killing something?
Like building something, just like
building.
in general. Yeah.
Yeah, building something, a turret maybe. Because in most games that have engineers, they are essentially turret wielders, aren't they? But the main problem with the turret is that it is stationary and people hate it, and I don't know. It would be cool if we could keep the turret, but make it not annoying and make engineer not completely frustrating to play against. But we didn't go into depth so far on that one.
Mm-hmm.
So next question. This is literally the same question.
Yeah.
The question was would you consider taking engineer in a different direction and giving the grenade launcher its own class? And we've already touched on that.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any?
We're considering it, but we're not planning it. At least not yet.
Yeah. So the final questions for this section deals with stalemates. So are we going to see a better way to deal with stalemates in the future? And do we plan to revisit stalemates? Or do we consider this update, with Scout and maybe some engineer as well, done enough to kind of fix stalemates or make stalemates better. Someone will take that.
We just released the update. Well, just released is good. It's probably 1 month ago, I think. We'll be observing how it changes the recovery style and if it has a good impact. Hopefully, it has a good impact. If it does, we might not have to change much. If recovering is still a pain, we will obviously have to tweak that a bit further. I'd be interested, you guys, do you think with Scout that recovery has gotten easier?
Absolutely.
Scout?
100%.
Oh,
not
absolutely.
only you guys, but the guys in chat, the people that are watching us. Is Scout viable on recovery? Is it going well? I'm really interested in that, genuinely, because that's why we created the class.
And if I could just say something while people are answering that. I think one of the big things we have to look at still is we haven't seen Scout or Engineer much at all in like an actual match setting. And I think actual matches are where like stalemates are like the hardest to break.
Yeah.
So I really think we'd have to see the classes in an actual match setting before we could evaluate that question fully.
We will have, by the way, because we decided on removing it from or not allowing it in matches. That will be removed on Monday, I think.
Basically, the end of this weekend. Yeah. So any official matches later, yeah.
So you can play Engineer and Scout in matches from then on.
Yeah, so play official matches. That would be cool.
There's your incentive to play, yeah. Play matches, tell us how it is.
If you still think it sucks, then you can just ban them as usual. That's up to you guys.
Anyone has? Oh, let's see. Has anyone said anything in the YouTube chat?
Not necessarily related to Scout.
Yeah, I guess Switch just kind of touched on that we haven't like seen it a lot in competitive yet.
Yeah.
That's a good point. So maybe we'll have to wait on answering that question.
Something I just wanted to add. If it doesn't do as much as we would like, or at least not as much as the community would like, there are still options. I saw Drags from TBF post a thread about another way we can deal with stalemates, which I really like. Where basically after a certain amount of time, the area around the flag carrier, the enemies around the flag carrier gets basically buffed, and so they deal low damage, right? So that's an option we can consider if, in the event that we don't think stalemates, not enough has been done for stalemates. So there's still options out there, and there's multiple avenues to pursue if that is the case. So it will get fixed. We're going to fix the stalemate issue someday.
I'm just going to go out and say that I prefer like that general idea over like any type of flag poison change, like just off the bat. I think that's a pretty solid idea that we could work on.
In my opinion, it does not change much, actually. If the flag poison would be hurting you while you carry the flag, and the other suggestion would be buffing the enemies, which in turn would hurt you more while you carry the flag. So in the end, there won't be that much of a difference.
But there's counterplay to it in the sense that you can avoid the enemies where you can't avoid the flag poison.
And another thing is certain classes become more useful, right? Now our tanky classes like Heavy and Soldier, when they were buffed in some way, they're going to be way more dangerous than they are now when they're kind of weak up. So now we're going to similar thing when we talk about offense, where they have more options to do on offense. Now we're going to have more options to go weak up during a stalemate. So we could go Ninja, or we could go Assassin, or Pyro, or Ultra, or one of the tankier classes. And so there's way more options to recover on. So I think that's a good option.
Yep.
Anyhow, does anyone have any further thoughts? Any further opinions on that?
No, I think we should move on.
Well, that does it for the Engineer, Scout, and Stalemate section. So I'm going to, I guess, pass it on to Skate for the Necro, Dwarf, and Elf. Yes?
Necro, Dwarf, and Elf. Yeah. So, do you plan to rework Necro by removing its mobs and changing it completely while keeping the Necro theme, as it was suggested in a few reworks, or by making them more useful and fix mob AI, if that's even possible? So,
oh well.
Red Slime, any comment?
From a coding perspective, I would very much prefer anything that goes without any AIs involved. The current AI is, we all know, it's rather shit, and I really don't feel like fixing it. I'm not exactly the best at AI stuff, and yeah, the best thing would just be to remove it and somehow find a solution without it, but we'll see, I guess.
Yeah, we did have this suggestion of chaos, where you would become a mob instead of you having spawning mobs, which would retain the necro feeling of the class. And we went pretty far with the suggestions so far, but at least from my perspective, it feels a bit boring because what we gave the different. So essentially, you would be able to toggle between 3 modes, 3 different mobs that you could become, and you would get different traits that are based on those mobs. For example, I think skeleton would be a bit faster. We would replace blazes with spiders, which would be able to climb walls. But it didn't feel that much fun, to be honest. Like the different mobs you would be able to play. Like it didn't feel cool to play. And I think we're a bit on the fence with doing that, and we'll have a bit more discussion about Necro, because I'm not quite sure if that's the way we want to go.
And to add on, so the main roadblock that is in my mind about this chaos idea rework for Necro, where you're channeling mobs, turning into these mobs, is the issue with it is you're going to have basically 3 miniature classes in one class, bundled in one class. So the problem is, if you make one of the classes too powerful in a certain role, then why play any other class when you can just play Necro when you have a very good class and also 2 other classes which can do other things. But then if you make it so it's just weaker than classes in that particular role, then we're gonna have why play Necro when you can play another class that does that all so much better. So it's this idea that if we can make any one of the mini classes powerful, then why play any other class that plays that role? And then if it's too weak, then why play it at all? When you can play another class that does it. So that's another issue that I have with it, is that this balance is very hard to balance.
It's really tricky as well, because in CTF, there's like no respawn time or no like delay on switching classes as well. So the kind of argument that like, oh, it's okay in all 3 roles, so that makes it like overall better than like each specific class, because you can kind of swap roles pretty quickly, like doesn't make sense, because you can just slash class and swap like instantly to another class if you need to like go and recover something. So that makes something like this like very hard to balance in a game like CTF.
Yeah, I agree with that. And even like, I mean, I guess it could be somewhat comparable to Elf with like its different like bows or even like mage, but that would be like, as Ninge like said, it's very tricky to have each one like balanced enough so it's like good enough for its own little like mini class, but something that is unique enough, not that it's like not better, that it's not worse or better than other classes that you could just immediately switch to, as Miski just said. If anyone else has any other comments on that.
I think this whole discussion also answers the next question of why we don't just buff Necro. Because Necro is a class using AI, and it is quite difficult getting the AI right. And we're just having immense issues on making the class fun to play. That's essentially why we just don't buff it immediately right now.
Yeah, I mean, we could like, hey, give it sharp like 10 or something, but like, what would that be? Yeah. I mean, we could always just do like little tiny things for the meanwhile, but yeah, we're definitely planning on getting a rework out there.
Yeah, the thing is like,
eventually.
We have already though, like we've already buffed the mobs twice, like we've already like, or 3 times actually, I think overall now. Like, there's nothing we can do to make the class viable that wouldn't be like a band-aid fix that we'd have to remove with a rework.
Right. So, next question. Yeah, we basically talked about Necro and Dwarf future plans. Is Dwarf going to get a rework anytime soon? As I think NoHawks like mentioned, we have like a document with like all these ideas. So if you guys want to like toss out any more ideas with Dwarf or anything that could be implemented into Dwarf, like it's basically infinite amount of possibilities that we could use. But I mean, we want to basically keep like the same principle, like foundation of the class.
Exactly. Like having Dwarf is currently the one of the only strictly defense classes, maybe Pyro, although Pyro is also used in recovery currently. When we do any changes to Dwarf, it would be good if we could retain this high armor, maybe high damage class that works good on defense. We don't want to completely change the concept because we did that with Engineer, and yeah. So something that is good on defense, that would also go towards buffing defense a bit more, because it seems, I don't know, people have voiced their opinion that defense is a bit weak currently.
Yeah. Now, next question is, we basically already talked about this a little bit. Like, what are your plans for the elf buff? What is your opinion on the wind rework formula that 915 time earlier this year? When do you see the buff being implemented? Yeah, we've already talked about this. Like, we're definitely on this. Like, this is on our the top of the page at the moment. Yeah, we'll be giving out like a thread asking for some like additional feedback or whatever, getting an implementation for that soon. Yeah.
Which of those questions are you currently?
I think we're done with this section now. Like, when will this take place? As soon as possible.
Yeah, well, we already released an update in April, so hopefully next update.
Yeah, I guess the idea would be we want to like let this current update like settle, see where it leaves us, and then we can work on other stuff. But I don't think we want to implement it until like we see where we are right now.
Yeah. It would be cool if we could have an update somewhere in late summer or autumn 2019. But it really depends on how much we can get together, and how well the changes are received, because we're definitely going to continue with the looking for feedback, because it's a method of actually getting changes directly to you guys and getting your feedback directly, and that's actually really cool because you can directly get the feedback from players, whereas previously we've just put out changes and had you guys react to it. That wasn't the most ideal thing to do.
Now on to the next section. Maybe Red Slime or no.
Right, next section is Brawl and CTF Management. And the first question is if Brawl is looking for any more staff members, or in other words, if the current amount of CTF staff is sufficient enough. Anyone want to answer that?
I can take that one.
Sure, go ahead.
I think we're always looking for more staff members. With the system we have going right now, I don't think there's ever going to be like a situation where we have like too many staff. It's just a matter of, if you want to become staff, you have to like fall into the guidelines we set and be qualified enough, like provide enough value to like be a staff member in a sense. So like a good way to like show that you can do this is like hosting PPM, suggesting ideas, stuff like that. But if you're someone who we deem like, you know, valuable to have on the staff team, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't want more staff members.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like just the value part of it. Like if you, for example, you may not be the greatest at detecting or like telling whether something could be hacked or not, but if you like always are on the forums and like giving feedback or whatever, like always making maps or whatever, like always helping out in a certain way that could give specific value, then I think that's really cool and we could always use that.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Alright, then moving on. How long will Spotlight Saturdays be going on for? Well, since this question was asked since the Spotlights were still going on, it's a bit outdated now, because we originally planned to have them going until the submission deadline, which was last weekend. So we don't have any more Spotlight Saturdays going on at the moment. And yeah, maybe we'll have a Spotlight Saturday like once per month if we do get new map submissions leading up to the next map wave. And you know, maybe we can do some events like playing old maps on a Saturday and stuff like that.
Yeah, it will definitely not look the same though, because we came up with the idea of Spotlight Saturdays pretty late. Was it us who came up with the idea, or was it someone from the community?
I think it's from the community. I'm not sure though.
Okay.
It's an idea I've definitely heard mentioned
maybe.
before.
Yeah.
But I mean, heard it's yeah. Go.
We wanted to do that before the map wave, so we could allow the map makers change the maps directly upon feedback, and it turned out pretty well, as we mentioned in the forum thread. There were quite a few submissions, so The problem is we had a large amount of maps to test, like 40, 45, 50 or so. And we want to do these Spotlight Saturdays more regularly, but we will not be able to do it with the same amount of maps, because obviously it takes time until people submit maps, build maps, and so forth. So we'll see how often we do it based on how many submissions we get. But we will definitely continue doing that in the future.
Yeah, this is a little bit solid, but I mean, we do have the old map booster and stuff in the shop. Because I heard someone like mention like old map Saturdays or something like that. Like that is an option that exists in the shop currently, the old map booster.
Yeah.
So if you guys do like really want to play a map, that is an option. Like I'm not saying like, oh, everyone go buy the old map booster right now. But like
we also want to change up the old map boost a bit. I'm not quite sure. I think it's mentioned somewhere later in the questions.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, that's the question regarding that.
Okay, well, we'll get there when we get there, I guess.
Yep. Next question. Why do some people get away with harassment due to who they are harassing?
Without context, this is a big question mark for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on the circumstances, because if you do not report a player and expect the chat to be permanently supervised, nothing will happen. It's essential that people report players. Even just a chat report works, because chat report logs the past minute of the chat, so we will see directly what was posted by who and can take quick action. So that might be one reason why it never happens. We don't want to be biased to any people, obviously, because that's just shit. We don't do that. So I guess it just boils down to how severe it is and how we get the report of it. That's why it sometimes will feel pretty unfair why some people are punished but others are not, I guess. That's the only explanation I can find for that.
Yeah, and it also gets into like murky ground, like on like where the harassment is being taken place. Like if it's on Brawl or say some random Discord server, like Brawl can only reach out so far with like punishment dealings, and the CTF committee as well. Like
there are very few situations where we'll go outside of in-game to do any sort of like harassment or punishment unless it's like a perm ban. In the case of like anything but a perm ban, it's very rare that we'll look just outside of in-game. So, yeah.
All right, then I think maybe the most important question of this stream. Will Miski get demoted?
Yes!
oh
no!
Called out.
Okay, I think
he's getting demoted tomorrow. He's getting
tomorrow,
demoted.
guys.
Oh, he said it.
To rip.
I think there's just like a general like misconception of like what I do or like what my role is at Brawl. For those of you who don't know, I'm not CTF specific. Like, I'm not only like working on CTF and stuff. Like, my primary thing that I do now is like social media and stuff like that for Brawl. Obviously I do have some input on CTF because that's like, you know, my most played game and the game I like know the most about. But there's a lot of stuff I do that I guess just you don't see or know, if that makes sense.
Yeah. You also have loads of other real life related stuff going on. Not only Brawl, not only work, but also aren't you in, what was it, Overwatch?
Yeah, I'm a social media manager for a Contenders team on Overwatch.
Yeah.
So
he's not completely inactive in his defense though, because he regularly shows up in our chats. I'm not quite sure what your in-game activity is. Probably better than mine, to be honest.
I play a lot on alts, actually, to be honest. But
okay.
Yeah. But players don't know that, I guess. So yeah.
Ideally not. All right. What happened to Moist or Moist Mayonnaise? Well, he got demoted, and we will not give out any more details regarding that. So that was a quick answer. Another question, which seems very serious. When are you going to resign, Miski and Lingeek?
Tomorrow.
Actually,
first. Thanks,
that's incorrect, Matt. That's incorrect, Matt. It's going to be today. Goodbye. I'm just putting in my resignation thread.
I told you I'm going to kick you in the face if you do that during the Q&A.
Honestly,
I don't know.
I'm too stubborn to like ever resign. that a mommy. Nah.
Well, what happens if you get forced resigned, huh?
Well,
I mean,
Promotion.
See you guys.
So I mean, I might be lagging. Am I lagging?
You're
Nope.
good.
No, you're good.
Okay. So I mean, personally, I once I thought about resigning. That was like last July or August, but then and that was for certain reasons. I can explain that personally if anyone wants to know. But anyways,
you're not
because
gonna
of
resign and you're gonna stay here.
no, I'm not going to resign. I'm not planning on resigning.
Fantastic.
I've been pretty busy recently, just school and work. But summer semesters can be lighter for me, so my activity is going to go up. I think at least I've been contributing a good amount. So I think I'm good.
Yeah, most
Can we-
definitely. Like,
Can-
there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes. Like, even with like staff, like the committee, like weekly, like council, like weekly meetings. Like, there's a lot of stuff that goes on that you may not see in game necessarily, but like all the staff are active in some way, some manner like that.
Can we just skip the next question, please?
In case you didn't know, No Hawks is the CTF manager.
I
Esmo.
can't believe that was a question. I'm very, very hurt by this question.
Yeah, whoever asked that, shame on you. We have a wonderful CTF manager, and it's
okay,
no
okay,
hugs.
guys.
All right.
That's enough of the praise. Thank you.
Okay, next question is whether Putty is involved in CTF. Not really. He sometimes does make good suggestions like the sprays, and he is technically in the Discord where we discuss everything, so he could join anytime if he wanted to. So doors are open, but he is not actively involved.
I think he's like simultaneously the most important and least important member of the CTF staff team. Because like he doesn't like directly contribute to like a lot of ideas and stuff because like he doesn't like need to, but also like he's the most important person when it comes to like actually like, getting anything we do to actually happen.
Right.
I guess if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And also like
So-
big direction. Like, I don't know, like nothing could really get done without him and that like the entire server, you know.
Especially if it comes to stuff that's.
But he
more
does a lot more than people realize.
Yeah.
Just, I guess like the general thing.
All right, big question coming up. What are your ideas on reviving Brawl and CTF? For example, adding some sort of advertisement in the form of more beneficial rewards from voting or hiring some big YouTubers?
I mean, having YouTubers would be good. Because they give out what do you call it in English? Reach?
Reach,
Outreach.
Yeah.
reach,
Um,
reach.
Oh, sure.
would be the word.
Because in my opinion, one of the main things that Brawl is currently lacking is getting their name out there. So that could be one way of going. I don't know. We could also set up rewards for voting, better rewards, which will also require a bit of your input. But we'll scratch on that later because we have a little thing planned for the end of the Q&A.
I mean, I think at this point I can say this. Brawl is like looking into potentially hiring YouTubers at the moment. To do some like playthroughs or like some gameplay on some of our stuff. So if there is someone you know that would be interested in something like that and has like a considerable like subscriber base, that's definitely something we're looking into, and that's definitely something that could end up boosting player counts. So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, pertaining the rewards, we want to get your input on that. So at the end of the Q&A, we'll have a small announcement on something you can help us on with. But that's for later.
Yeah, I mean it's really the classic answer of please give us ideas and suggestions and stuff. But yeah, it's really what it comes down to. If you have a good idea, please let us know, and we'll consider and discuss your ideas for sure. All right, moving on. I think a good way to get more exposure for CTF and Brawl as a whole would be to do a catching hackers series, as those are generally pretty popular on YouTube. Would anyone on staff be willing to attempt that? I'm looking at you, Miski.
I am 1000% down. I mean, like, I don't know, bring some like hacking regulars in a TS call or something. That'd be fun. I'm down.
I enjoyed these small videos by BBH.
Yeah, me
Though
too.
they were made by BBH, but they were still kind of funny. I like watching those. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as long
he
as it's
gets-
not Bad Boy Halo doing it himself.
Oh God, no! Please, no.
Yeah, that's something I guess I'd have to get like clearance from Putty on doing, because I know with BBH a lot of time it was like, oh, like answer this question correctly and stop hacking or you're banned. But like I'd need permission to like not ban someone, which is probably gonna be a hard thing to get. But
you do realize though that if you do that, you need to get yourself a bowl cut, right?
I got a haircut today. Okay, I ain't
Yeah.
going in for another anytime soon.
That's part of the magic, dude. You can't do it without.
No.
Yep,
We
part
need,
of the
we need to go
contract.
a step further. We need to use the new Snapchat. What did it turn into a girl filter?
Oh my!
Yes.
God!
Misty went
Oh,
back.
no.
Do it.
Permanent on stream. Yeah. Oh boy.
Okay, moving on before this
yeah.
gets out of hand.
Yeah. Any current ideas for advertising or increasing the player base? Maybe we should look at CTF more specific when we answer this one, because it could be a pretty broad scope.
So apparently we do have enough players joining Brawl and CTF, but we are not keeping them, which is one of the main problems that CTF has. We tried to fix that a little bit with the help book, so that new people will be able to know what to do. And I think it boils down to just making the game good, easy to understand, and enjoyable to play. And it seems like we are lacking on that. It might also be because Brawl itself has not gotten that much reach. So that's, I think, one of the main problems. But we could definitely improve CTF on making it a bit more fun. Also goes down to the suggestion of having purposefully overpowered classes, so that each class is in one way fun to play and viable. Which would be kind of weird case of balancing. Instead of balancing all classes, you would make all classes intentionally overpowered. We'll see how that turns out.
Hashtag MCPV.
Yeah, there are definitely some things we are looking at in terms of player retention, though. I mean, we did kind of do voting rework somewhat recently. We're also looking into like game mode lobbies and stuff like that, with little like fun things to do in them as well.
Leaked. Yeah.
Well, okay, I mentioned that like so long ago.
We're doing it.
Like,
We're doing it.
Yeah, it's yeah.
Yeah, and even like the targeting implementation, like that rule against that, like we've seen like time to time like certain players purposely target noobs who are like really weak and really bad, and just only target them, like like at their spawn. Like that type of stuff is being like a regular, like you should honestly know better to try to like help retain these newer players. So I mean that's like the main thing with the targeting rule, but of course like there's more to it, and it's on a case-by-case basis, but even that is like that was the general direction with that.
I mean, what can I say? Versions is just a free kill. Like
Yeah, because he's a Wendy. Somebody suggested, by the way, stream chat, somebody said spam Hypixel lobbies. Well, I don't think we're... Yeah, no.
Pardon me, a Brawl staff member is not breaking rules on any other servers.
How about a Discord raid? We had enough of those targeted to us. Why not give it back?
You have no idea how many PMs I got. Or Redson probably got like the same amount as like admin and dev.
I only got one. I don't know how you guys got that many.
I got like at least 20.
Dude,
like,
you wouldn't at me. Why do you get more of these spam?
I don't think I got a single one, actually.
What?
Fuck me then, you know? Whatever. They're all. I'm just getting targeted. Okay.
Alright, moving on. Very large lack of bans lately, and an understandingly decent amount of regular players hacking. Even though it is very hard to ban people with the current policies in place, will the low ban count change in the near future? Anyone answering?
Cousins, you can take that, right? You're the hacker guy, right?
I'm the hacker. I'm not a hacker.
What are you trying to say here?
Blatantly.
Oh, you need the hack to, not be a Randy.
I think Ninky just wants to say ban yourself already.
Guys,
well, we are aware of
command.
a decent amount of
guys,
regular players hacking.
Yeah.
Guys.
We are aware of a decent amount of regular players hacking.
Yeah.
The problem is we need sufficient evidence. We have been receiving reports from players recently. Most of them haven't been sufficient enough for them to be banned. And also, another factor, some of our staff members in the staff do not have a great knowledge in close count detection, so we're looking to improve on that. But hopefully it'll just come down to the community helping us with recording players that they think are hacking and reporting them via the Brawl website. Yeah.
It also comes down to the problem that regular players, there is this discussion if regular players should be regarded on the same level as complete randoms when it comes to hacking, or if they should be given some sort of special treatment. That's an overarching discussion topic also among staff. On the one hand, you should always treat people equally. On the other hand, which is my personal opinion on it, is that regulars are less likely to hack than casuals just because they have invested so much time. But then again, you can regular players are more sophisticated when it comes to hacking. They know better to hide the hacks, so it gets more difficult to catch them. And I believe that in all contributes to the difficulty of catching regular players, just because they are better at hiding it and less likely to hack overall. That's at least how I would interpret that. And in extension, it would mean we need more and better evidence on that, because most regular players won't be so stupid using flying, hack, or spider, whatever. They use more sophisticated ones.
Yeah, there's one big point I kind of want to put on this, and I think anyone here can really attest to it. And this is something I think like Scape and I specifically dealt a lot with, was gathering the amount of evidence it takes to get like a ban approved on like a regular is like extremely time consuming. There have been like very like obvious like cheaters that were regulars before that it was very, very hard to, like the amount of time we had to put in. And I mean, I can't go in like to specifics, but again, like Scape knows this like more than I think anyone else. But without like you guys from the community actually like submitting video evidence of this stuff happening, and if you just like report in game and like never record it, it makes our job like 10 times harder. Because then we have to take time out of our day to come in game and specifically sit there doing nothing but watching one player and recording, which is very, like, again, like it's kind of our job to do, but like not everyone has like 24/7 availability to do that. So there's a chance, like a very good chance, we're gonna miss like an incident where we could have banned off of something, and that's where you guys really come in and like need to be, if you can, providing like evidence and stuff like that with your reports. That'll help a lot. Yeah.
Okay, moving on.
Yeah, moving on. With the new Brawl Hightail Discord server, will Brawl be transferring Hightail 100%? If so, will stats and purchases be carried like the MC PvP Brawl transfer? I think there is a bit of a misconception there. It doesn't have anything to do with Brawl in specific, actually, and Brawl will be staying. I'm not quite sure why people think that we are going to move over to Hightail.
I didn't know there was a Discord, a Brawl Discord for Hightail, to be honest.
There isn't really. I think the name is this Hightail Waiting Room or something like that. It's not directly connected to Brawl in any way, except it was posted in Brawl Discord, so maybe that's why people think it somehow has something to do with Brawl, but that's not planned, I think.
I mean, I guess like the best answer would be like we actually like don't know what the entire purpose or like plan for that server is, really.
Yep, we don't know.
So we won't know until Buddy tells us.
I mean, Hightail's not even released, is it? Like
Hightail won't be released for at least another 6 months.
Exactly. Yeah. So we really won't know like anything until it's released.
Yeah, so maybe we'll get back to that in a few months, but Brawl will be staying. Okay, next question. How frequently do you see the CTF staff team implementing updates or new class ideas?
More frequently, hopefully. New classes is difficult because we, as we said before, we don't want to have it get out of hand. It should at least take 1 year for each new class, max at the minimum, I'd say. Updates definitely more regularly, and luckily we have Red Slime now and everything is going a bit more smoothly. Because before we had severe issues on getting together good updates. So I think the past half year was very successful in regards to CTF compared to what we had before.
Yeah, we just got our first new class in like 3 years, so updates are happening. Like now's not the time to complain about lack of updates, I think.
As mentioned, we want to continue the looking for feedback format.
Yep, I think the general idea is just, let what we have right now sit. We can see like the meta develops, but we're still going to be working on stuff in the background and ready to implement stuff if it doesn't pan out the way we envisioned.
Yeah.
Alright, then moving on. Any ideas on new events or booster packs for the future?
Yes.
Oh, I'll take this one. I love this.
Oh my
Alright.
god!
I know why.
So we already have one event that we have. You can see that one. It's the Redstone Traps map event, which you can sign up for. It's a pretty cool one where it's a map just with lots of traps you can activate by pressing a button, and it'll be pretty cool. I hope if you can make it, sign up. It's gonna be awesome.
You don't even have to sign up actually. Just play on CTF next week on Saturday at 2 p.m. UST.
It's just you don't even sign up. Sweet.
It's
Just
on the
be
Necro
there.
server, yeah.
Yeah, be there. Sweet.
Be there.
It won't be a very long time though, because it's one map, and obviously we can't play the same map multiple times. So
Oh yeah, we can, and
do
we
that.
will.
We will.
But it won't be played like 10 times in a row like the Spotlight Saturday thing. So don't expect it to be super long.
Obviously, we have this throwback week. We probably just trying to improve old map boosts or something. We've already touched on that. But what's throwback week?
Throwback week was an idea where we replaced the entire rotation with old maps. We discussed that just recently, and we weren't sure if one whole week of old maps would be cool or not, because we're kind of divided on that. Maybe you can give us some input there. But I think it would be nice to see the old maps completely set on the CTF server again, at least for just a week, or maybe just a weekend. We'll see.
My favorite two. This is the best.
Oh, no.
So we have Slums Day, which is on a Sunday, right? We're gonna have nothing but slums all day.
Looks like I'm not playing on Sunday.
No, I won't be playing.
Sunday, fun day.
Player counts are going to be slum.
I'm part of this game where it's.
Who came up with the idea again?
I think that was me.
Yeah, I think my idea was why are we playing this game Wednesday? Right? I forgot what was why are we playing this game Wednesday? It was just all the bad maps you can play or something.
I think
6
it was
variations of Waterfall.
Yeah, I think it was an event where we play maps that really weren't that good, just for the fun out of it.
Oh, you know, no, we play all the XD maps from the April Fools. We play Worlds, and we play Mini Blackout, all that. Oh yeah, there we go. That's what we're gonna do.
I will say, in terms of like actual events, that is something I did quite heavily in the past, like the 1v1 and 3v3 tournament, like all that kind of stuff. That's something that I'd definitely be interested in doing again. It's just I've been like very busy as of late. But if that's something you guys want, I can definitely start working on that again. Like 1v1 tournament, 3v3 tournament, offense versus defense matches, stuff like that. It's just gonna come down to, I guess, scheduling them and seeing what kind of interest we have.
Just a word of warning: we don't want this to become too bullshitty. Just because it sounds really stupid. That was just quick ideas on events we can do. So yeah, we'll have other better events as well. So don't fear on that one.
Going on to the booster.
He came up with the idea of Slums Day. I don't know.
Wasn't me.
Yeah,
going on to the booster. I think someone, or maybe I forget, like made a thread about like potentially having, or just an idea, potentially having like, as we have like an old map booster, maybe like an old gameplay booster. So like reverting everything for like a temporary time, like an hour, like 2-3 hours, whatever. Back to like MC PvP, like OP stuff. Like it's just like a big idea. Like it had a lot of support, but
I think Red Slime.
It's not happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, no, it's unrealistic, really.
It's also something that even if it was realistic, would be like very poor in terms of like if this game actually did kind of get focused around competitive again, or like competitive being popular, it would take away from time like people could actually practice, like learn the game for matches and stuff like that.
Well, not only that, not only that, but the problem is that changes to CTF happen for balancing reasons, out of necessity, because some features aren't available anymore in Minecraft. And stuff like that we just cannot revert because Minecraft doesn't support them. And aside of that, reverting the entire CTF to a former state is just way too much work. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, Weird Slime, but we don't keep copies of the code. We just overwrite them and have, I don't know how you guys do it.
Actually, we do. We could roll back to anything like the past 4 years or something, but the rest of the
Probably
code that is
break
outside
everything.
CTF also evolves, and it just wouldn't work anymore. Which
The idea of
would need a
something
lot
like
of
that as well
fixing.
would be like, the idea would be like
Yeah.
bring like, old players would come back to like do that, but like the whole idea of like just getting better player retention and bringing in new players is much more solid than bring back old players that are now like 20 years old and like don't care about the game anymore. We should focus on like actual like updates and like balancing the game and stuff like that to bring in like new players and retain them rather than reverting.
We
Yeah,
also
I mean,
had a.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, I think the more the focus would be like on generating revenue, like not really on like the players, but more on getting revenue from it. But like the amount of
At
like
what
cost and
though?
time for
Yeah.
to get that, like to even implement something like that, or even something
Worth it.
like that. Like maybe if it was just like one class that was, it'd still be a lot of work and something. Red Slime.
We
would
also
just come
had
to-
what you call it, backend changes. Like the whole structure of CTF
Yep.
was recoded just recently, so it would have to be the old code is not compatible to the current.
Yeah, if you were to do it, we would have to pretty much code it from scratch all over again, which is, it takes time. It's just not worth it, I think.
There was another suggestion of the old map booster, how we can change that up, because currently we only have this one old map booster. But what we could do in the future is actually splitting the old map booster in different map packs. So you have different old maps in different packs, so you can actually choose which maps you want to see played from a list of maps per pack. And yeah, we would have different old map boosters. Maybe that would make the old map booster a bit more attractive to players.
More like leniency in terms of like what maps you get with the old map booster would be interesting as well, so players have like more of a chance to actually like, decide what maps come up.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Slums or get out.
Yep.
Yeah, you can get your slum day just only slums.
Oh
I think
god, no.
there has to be some form of like automated stuff with those kind of boosters though, so we like guarantee like because we wouldn't want the same map like 5 times in a row because obviously that'll like
No,
kill player
obviously.
counts more than anything.
Yeah.
So there has to be some sort of balance in terms of that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're gonna see some changes to old map boosters and retro stuff soon.
Yep.
And actually the 2 next questions also add on to that, basically asking if it was possible to either make it somehow toggleable or through an item in the shop to bring back wool, essentially. And I'm sorry to disappoint, but it's long gone now, and it's not coming back. It's 2019 now. We've always almost been longer on Brawl than on MCPVP, so we've had the banners for a long
we
time.
have surpassed that now.
Yeah, we've had the
think
banners for a long
we
time,
are
then
more
we've done
than
the
on
wool now, and
MCPVP,
it's not happening.
Just make a texture pack with an invisible banner with a little square in the middle.
Yeah. I think somebody make a mod actually to replace the banner
Yeah,
with floating
I think
wool. You can use that
that's
if you
cool.
wish to.
I feel like someone did. Was it maybe Kirby? I don't know.
Yeah, it was Kirby, yeah.
Either way, there are options out there to like make it look like it, but
Yeah,
us
if you really want
actually
to,
reverting it is not gonna happen.
I wish the banner patterns would be a bit higher resolution so we could actually make a wool banner. So just having a wool block on the banner. Okay, I think we're done with the general CTF and Brawl section.
Yep.
The last section would be fun. Pudgy, do you want to read that? You haven't said much today.
Sure. Hold on.
Casually
So
opening the doc.
I had it open, I just had to scroll to it. Sorry. But CTF staff members' favorite and least favorite maps. I don't know if you want me to go first. I
Okay,
can
Misty,
just
you have to
say.
go.
Yeah, after this question, I'm gonna have to go to an interview. But
All right. Mine is Blackout. Shout out to Team Crusader. And whoever wants to follow up, go ahead.
Mine is Blackout too.
Blackout is my second favorite
Mini
map.
Blackout,
First favorite
guys.
would be
Mini Blackout.
Holy
my first
smart.
favorite would be Airlock 1. I think the guy who made it's really handsome.
Yeah, I like A Fog too. He's pretty
I
cool.
also like Airlock 1, but not the creators who made it.
Unfortunately.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, I for my part like. Oh, sorry. When you finish?
I mean, mine's the generic. I don't have any top, but like Blackout, Airlock 1, Slate. I really like Slate. I also like Giant Chests 1. Like anything that has like really fun medic capping routes. Right there on top of the list.
Yeah. I think mine are Beaver. I know you guys are going to murder me for that, but I like Beaver
Oh
Creek.
no.
Oh my.
Okay.
Because I'm an Archerman and I
Consider
don't know.
yourself
Every
charged.
time I play Beaver Creek, it just feels nice. But I'm just an archer. So. Also, I like I like Zero Station.
Oh,
because it's
shit.
one of
I like that too.
Dude,
good.
because it's a medic map. I mean, what other medic map do we have in game?
Starlight. Oh yeah. I love
Okay, well,
BK
yeah, but
Starlight. Let's go.
I mean, Zero Station is gold. Medics are gold. It's perfect.
So least favorite maps now?
Yeah. What about you guys? Least favorite maps?
I don't like. I've made this opinion very clear. I hope. My least favorite map by far is any Skywars variant.
All right,
What?
and
Including
Skywards?
I hate all Skywars variants. It's a terrible map.
Even Skyworld's 1?
No, Skywars 1 is the worst. Oh my goodness, don't even get me started. It's awful. It's
Are
so
you kidding,
defensive
or-
biased. I'm not kidding.
Okay,
It's
okay,
so
yeah.
defensive biased. Getting onto that island as offense is stupid. I think getting off of it with the flag? No, thank you. It's just a terrible map.
With some of the reworks, I feel like
sponge on top that's so close to spawn.
I think
That
we
hurts.
broke him.
It's just awful. It's literally the worst map in the game.
oh my god, I wouldn't say that.
You don't have to rage in our Q&A. Gosh,
What about Skywall?
That one's okay.
that one's
Okay.
Nice.
Red. What about you? What's your least favorite map?
I think I'll go with Skytown just to piss off Pizza.
I have to agree on that. I really did not like that map.
And I would say Skytown is a variant of Skywars, so I also hate Skytown.
Right.
Yeah, that's a given.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. But also Metro, there's nothing I hate more than that map, I think.
Which
Even
map?
though it's on rotation. Metro.
Metro. Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Offense is weak enough. But hey, let's put Metro. Yep.
I mean, basically for me, like any really big map that's like takes a while to cross, nah. Big no.
Okay.
Versions, did you give yours?
Oh yeah, I hate tanks. Literally, I'm glad that was removed from rotation.
Tanks?
How about
Tanks.
helicopters? Or what's that new one?
I like tanks.
Submarines.
Submarines.
Oh my goodness.
I'll make helicopters.
I think I'd prefer tanks over submarines.
Oh boy.
Was that everyone?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next question is best player of each class right now.
Oh, gosh.
So for Ninja, right? This is my personal preference. For Ninja, it's whoever can best utilize reach hacks. That's the best Ninja.
That's the absolute
Yes.
best.
I
think that's just the best player in the gig, but
Honestly, I really don't know who the best player in different classes is. I
Me.
don't look at the leaderboards that often anymore. And, I don't play regularly anymore, so it would kind of be unfair to give an
yeah, I
opinion
feel
on
like I would say the same thing. I
Yeah,
have
same.
been playing recently. I don't know. My votes would be like dated to 2017 or something.
Just saying, I know Swid is a really good soldier, just because she's probably still watching the stream.
Yes.
Like I don't really know any other Kip isn't playing anymore, so Swid is pretty much the best soldier currently.
Yes.
Um,
I think there was like a thread out there that like touched on the same exact question.
Oh, is there?
So
Another
there's
Yeah.
been like
popularity
3.
contest?
There's
Three,
been
yeah,
3.
probably.
Yeah, but it's always a popularity contest. It's always.
Yeah.
So do we want to? Do we not want to
Yeah.
keep going with that question?
No, I think we can move on to the
I mean, I
next
feel like
one.
people could just like people could always just like pop off and like do really good in like a game or like a certain
Yeah.
match, and then yeah, everyone has
People
their
have good days and bad days too. So, the next question is best custom weapon names you've seen.
Red
I
slime
know.
again. Red slime. I know you have the list, don't you?
Yeah, I put some of those on the spreadsheet because I have access to them, and I was checking through the list earlier. So we have like things like 0 damage or negative healing stick on medic swords. We have items called banhammers, even twice. Shout out to these guys. We have something called Florida Ping. I think it is from Assassin.
No, it's a ninja. It's
It's
I don't know
ninja,
whose
okay.
it is. It's ES's. I forgot what his IGN right now, but no, yeah, it's a ninja.
Signifies, I think.
Signifies. That's it. Yeah.
We have the cancer cannon. Unfortunately, I don't know which item that was applied on. It sounds like engineer, but it's removed. I don't know. We have something called flamethrower. Then in full caps, breaking news: man gets stabbed.
That's awesome. I haven't heard of that one before.
We have one called lol die to NG. And finally, Alexa play Despacito. I think that one is from
goodness.
Paladin Knights.
Just want to point out that my ninja sword is called Waffle Slayer.
Wonderful.
My
chemist sword
medic
is called
sword-
Waffle Machine, and I love it.
My medic sword is sharpness 1 because that's really all how I can only kill with medic sword is with sharpness 1.
Mine is negative damage stick, and someone else's is positive damage stick. And I think that's really well coordinated because he's a ninja. So yeah, those are my favorites, and definitely not biased. Are we
Okay,
moving on?
next question.
Okay.
Oh yeah, let's go.
God.
Let's go.
How do you feel about pineapple on pizza?
Yes, it belongs there.
Disgusting.
It belongs there.
It's a natural state.
You guys are so disgusting. I can't believe you asked that.
All right,
I had some.
think-
I had
Who
some
puts
yesterday. It was
pineapple on
really good.
pizza? It's
Smart
sweet.
people.
You don't put sweet
Yes.
on savory.
Yes, you do. What are you
Put
No,
sweet on
I
everything.
don't. What are you
I
talking
just want to
about?
say that Gordon Ramsay stands with me and Mad Versions by
Yeah,
saying
and
we
me.
think it's disgusting.
I just want to point out
Exactly.
Pudgy is letting her opinion being influenced by a man. Just showing it out
Who
there.
else could decide my opinion in Geek? What do you mean?
Yourself? I don't know.
I don't know what that means, but yeah, okay.
So I think we came
But,
as a staff team. We
it's-
came to the
it's-
conclusion that anyone who likes a pineapple on pizza is a degenerate scrub. So
I
no,
agree.
we literally asked Putty if he likes pineapple pizza, and he said that he's okay with it. If it's on there, he'll eat it.
There we go.
I think
All
we need
right,
There you go.
There we
what
go.
does he have on Gordon Ramsay? I mean, I'm just saying. Okay, moving on.
He can demote you. That's what he has on Gordon Ramsay.
We have one question left, guys.
Does Versions have a keyboard?
He
That's
does.
I don't think I have a keyboard, guys.
He has a
But he does
keyboard.
not
It's
have a
broken now.
microphone.
Get a new
He
one.
doesn't have a microphone. No,
He does not have a
is silent.
microphone. I'm sorry.
That's his dog speaking.
Okay, I think
But
this-
but no Hawks.
I mean,
no
koala.
Hawks,
yes, what?
No Hawks does not have a keyboard.
I do. Why? Of course, I have a keyboard. I don't know where that meme came from, to be honest.
He
Hey,
writes
dude,
out
it's
meeting
fine.
summaries, guys. Let's have a keyboard.
Oh, right. Okay. Fine.
I would just like to say shout out to No Hawks because, well, although Ningeek too, because this whole council idea was Ningeek's idea,
Yeah.
and
I'm so
there's a
glad they-
little bit of story behind that too. I think he was going to resign or something if we didn't get updates.
Oh yeah. That's what I referenced before. We didn't get updates. I'm like, this is so annoying, and
Yeah,
so it's
not
about
much got
design. I was
done.
like, you know what? I can fix this, and so I made this thing.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, but when No Hawks is in meetings, it goes just very smoothly, and he keeps track of the meetings and does a lot.
Aw,
So.
thank you.
Yeah, I was also the one who said that on the survey.
Oh, you were that person. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that was obvious. It was obvious.
Oh, shut up, Nimgi.
You literally said this.
I'm
I
pushing.
made it obvious that who I am.
No.
I didn't. I still didn't know it. I mean, I don't want to accuse anyone of anything. So, but thank you very much.
Yes.
I think that concludes our Q&A right now.
Should we talk about like the chat questions?
Exactly. That's the next step. So before we do that, there's one more thing I want to mention. We are going to do a follow-up thread to the Q&A because when we answered these questions, we had a few questions ourselves to you. So we will put out a new thread with our questions where you can just answer them on the forums. I'm not quite sure. Maybe we are even going to do a form out of it if you want to stay anonymous, but I don't know. We'll have to decide on that. Yeah, but you will be messaged about that in the regular fashion. Okay, I think we are going to move to the questions that were submitted during the Q&A because we've been tracking the chat a bit during the Q&A, and we've got a few questions. So, wait, let me just give you the link to this. There you go. I wrote down the questions.
You have a keyboard? Whoa.
Of course I have a keyboard. So one of the so if you have any questions concerning our answers right now, you can just put them into the chat right now. One question was by Dave, 40. In order to get teams active again, you need to do tournament and force teams into activity. We discussed that on the answer that forcing teams into activity won't work because we already kind of did that with the rules we had. Like you have to play a certain amount of times in a month, and it feels like people are leaving because they cannot meet the standards for teams anymore. So I think that will go into the complete opposite direction, to be honest. Aw, Swit gave us a compliment. Thank you, Swit.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Another another remark was by Cake. When are you going to allow engineer in official matches? It's been a while since it's released, and I think it's ready to enter gameplay. We agree, and it will be allowed on Monday, I think. Didn't we say Monday?
Yeah, Monday.
So this weekend we'll stay without engineer, and after that you can use scout and engineer in team matches. Another one was by Snowbreak. Bring back Earth Element to combat annoying stalemate soldiers. What opinion do you have on that, guys?
I didn't hate Earth Element, but I don't know. I think you could fit it into another class or something. I don't really like the idea of it on Elf at this point. That's my opinion personally.
I mean,
yeah.
Well, especially if we're gonna like bring back potentially the old wind element, we may want to see how that works. Like it's basically like the reverse of earth element, like pushing people away instead of like keeping them there. So yeah, I'm not sure if we want to also bring back earth element as well.
I think that was the point. Wasn't that the point with the earth element though, to keep soldiers on the ground?
Yeah.
So the main issue with the proposition, or the issue it's supposed to tackle, is stalemates, and we hope that we can already fix stalemates without having to change something about the earth element. And I think the earth element was removed because it was annoying to players and it was being spammed and created lag. I can't remember actually.
Yeah, and then it just like basically turned into like the vortex, what it is now.
Yeah, it was basically combined earth and wind into that. And just my own personal opinions on all this. So we have, and the thing is, this is all to be considering with the alpha work that we want to get out and stuff. And so does it fit? One of my major thing is that would it fit in this new rework that we have, or these tweaks that we have, or whatever we want to do, right? That's my major question. And so it's definitely something to consider. And it definitely has its uses. So that's just my personal opinion on it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next up by Shoki. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I think flag poison is fine. Why you gotta think about how every single class is doing with it. Then the idea of the whole game is playing together and using different classes together. That was in response to the idea of having things that counter stalemates. For example, buffing your enemies, or nerfing yourself while you're carrying the flag. And I agree that the whole point of CTF is to play together as a team, although we did see that not working in casual games multiple times. It's being done in team games very often, but during casual games it's really difficult, or people just don't care and play together. That rarely happens.
And I think this is I don't know if this is correct, but I think it was in response to like the stalemate idea about buffing the enemies around the flag carrier or whatever. Basically, the what we want to pursue is some way to encourage more options as a team, so that as a team we can pursue more options, basically, right? So, so there's always going to be solo play in any sense, but also just opening up more options to in any context. That's basically what we want to pursue. And so, of course, anything that any ability that we have, at least most abilities that we have, that we introduce or whatever to help shorten stalemates, there's always going to be solo play. But I agree that we should also try. The focus should also see, in the team play, and I think it just like they go hand in hand more or less. So
we'll see what we're going to change. We're trying to make stalemates as rarely as possible, so we might be able to just keep the flag poison as it is. Because I think we also did a poll on it and wasn't really well received, like the way you reduced your maximum health after a few minutes holding the flag. Can't remember the exact outcome, but I think people didn't really like it.
It was generally not well received.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. Sean the Sheep said, "What is your opinion about removing the inability to cap when the other team has your flag?"
That's the first time I've ever heard of that, which is interesting to think about.
No more stalemates.
Removing the inability to cap when the other team has your flag. So that would mean you would be able to cap regardless. You wouldn't have to try to recover. That would make defense really important, actually, because you always have to guard your flag, regardless of if it's...
What if we did an event like that and just see how it goes?
I was just gonna say that. It seems like a cool thing to do for an event, but I think for casual games it's too radical. Like it somehow also takes away an aspect of the game that is mostly maybe a bad thing, having cellmates, but it's somehow part of it. And if it's not too long, I think it can be fun also, and like a challenge in some way.
Yeah. Cool. If that works, then why not?
Yeah, I think we should do that one day.
Yeah, nice idea.
Another one by Shoki was make it to a burst class so you can collect mobs and spawn them along. That was, I think, in response to Necro.
Probably.
Yes, yeah. Necro.
Make Necro into a burst class so you can collect mobs and spawn them all at once, focusing one guy. That would, in turns, mean it needs a good AI. It might work because one of the solutions we had without having to dramatically improve the AI was to just make the mobs faster and more strong. So it wouldn't matter too much if they didn't find the way, because the damage they deal is high enough. We will put that into consideration, because currently we don't really have a good alternative idea to Necro, as we mentioned before. Sherman Williams said, if Archer Medic are nerfed, do you have any ideas on how they would be nerfed? Also Mage. I hope we don't have to nerf Archer and Mage Archer and Medic, to be honest, because I'm really against that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't really know about the popularity of Medic too much, but from what I remember, people just didn't like to play it, especially on offense, considering defense is strong. So nerfing it, I don't think that'd be a good idea for that, but also a lot of people play Archer, and you don't want to make it worse. So, because then less people will play it. So I don't know.
Yep. Also, in response to Shoki in the chat right now, we could technically just delete Scout because the whole point of Scout was to recover, and if we don't have any necessary recovery, the whole recovery would be just gone because you just don't have to recover. You just have to be good at stealing the flag. I mean, they have a point. But I think it's still worth trying it out in an event, just because we can. Fun to see some drastic meta changes and what happens to the game if we do. But I agree that it's probably not a good idea to have that permanently in the game. Last thing was from Friends for Reason. Will Mage be nerfed?
So I personally don't see Mage being nerfed exactly. I would consider it more being reworked, because right now, even if you think Mage is, OP or whatever, its usefulness, in the actual terms of the overall game, it's not super useful unless you're very good at the class, right? And there's only a few players, a handful of players that are that good at Mage to be making impactful part of the game. So I think instead of nerfing it, we would consider somehow reworking it or something. Personally, I don't see it much of an issue.
I don't either. No.
If we do want to consider reworking it, that's going to be down the line. Like after Necro, Dwarf, Elf, after perhaps a new healing class, and reworking Medic, and reworking Assassin. It's down the line, if we would even consider it. So
honestly, Mage doesn't seem so. Like, there are other classes which are way more present in the game, like Soldier or Pyro, and Mage isn't one of those classes. Mage is like isn't that strong in its role. It feels it's just annoying to play against.
Yeah, especially in 1v1s.
Yeah, exactly. Like, nerfing Mage would just make the class even more useless, I would say. So maybe we can try to do something making it less frustrating to play against, but in general, I'd say Mage is fine, to be honest.
Yeah.
At least for my personal opinion, obviously.
And there's another comment I wanted to touch on. I think Shoki mentioned why don't you just have force Badline client on CTF. That was definitely brought up in staff chat.
Yeah, it was recently.
Yeah, you want to talk about
Brawl
that?
would be required to purchase the Badline and anti. That's pretty expensive, to be honest. And I think that can easily be bypassed as well. So I don't think it's worth spending a lot of money on an anti-cheat that at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if it was also just for the match server, because if it was just for all of CTF, then that's the goodbye player count. But if it was for more competitive type matches or events, then who knows?
Yeah. In response to Sherman Williams, yes, I think Miski mentioned that, and we also mentioned that feels like if you have classes which are purposefully OP in some aspects, it brings fun to the game. So yes, Medic and Archer are really strong. Personally, I wouldn't want to change that just because a lot of the fun of the class is bound to that. But we don't have any plans for those classes, let's say. Let's put it that way. Wolfie has 2 messages submitted. Will Arc and or Winter be demoted, resign? No offense, just the 2 most obvious from me from the top of my head. If not, what do they do behind the scenes to justify them being JMod? Since he never sees them in game, in all fairness, I may not be American, but I do play around there sometimes and also know for a fact that activity is not good. I don't actually know. They don't. It's difficult because both are not here, and we don't want to discuss things behind the backs of other staff.
For Winter's case, at least, I know she always brings up that she has like a lot of like issues like behind the scenes, like even just like playing, getting on. She's busy IRL.
Yeah,
Has just like
exactly.
difficulties coming on. Like whenever she can be active, like she's active.
Yeah,
she helps out whenever she can. So like that's to justify for Winter. With Arc, like I don't know. I'm new when she kind of joined, and I can't really speak much about that. But
that she has like a lot of tests recently, which
Oh,
I
is
mean,
it-
you shouldn't put a game before tests, I think. But
It's exam time right now, right?
yeah, so
Yeah.
I think I
Oh,
think
man.
waiting until summer, seeing if any activity goes up with that would be good to see. I mean, I do kind of agree. And like I don't know, I feel like a lot of people don't like say things like this about Brawl and their staff because they don't want to make it look bad, and I'm not saying it to do that. But like
Toxic
I
budget.
think no one really gets demoted ever.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's
that's
a
not
valid
true.
question. Well, Moist did for like
No.
reasons we can't
A Frog Dog
explain.
did.
it was a very
Exactly.
specific instance. Like,
There were multiple staff members. So demoting for inactivity is a thing on Brawl. I just want to point that out. That is being done. If it's too lenient or not is something that upper staff would have to decide. I think Mindsheep is the staff manager currently.
Yep, Mindsheep is the staff manager.
And in regards to activity, I don't want to decide on anything on that because that's as well part of upper staff. Both Winter and Arctic bring stuff in into the discussions. Albeit they are not always there during the meetings because we hold weekly meetings, so they're not always there. But again, both have reasons not to be there, just as Miski, by the way, because he also has in real life issues. And they are not completely inactive. Like we have had mods that were completely off the scene, completely not playing Brawl at all. And Miski, Arctic, and Wintergreen are all playing CTF and all bringing, even though they're not doing that regularly. So I don't think it's fair to ask them to resign at this point, honestly.
I mean,
Look at me. I'm also not active in the. I think I'm like the second. What did the survey say? I'm like the second least active staff member for CTF.
Demoted.
We demoted
I mean,
Noah.
I don't
Say
remember.
goodbye to meetings.
Yeah, please don't demote me for that.
I mean, personally, I can kind of agree. Those personally, from what I've seen, I mean, I don't know. It's like Pudgy, as Pudgy said, it's kind of like it just doesn't feel like talking about this, at least personally. But I do feel like Arctic and Winter do seem to be on the lower side of activity. I guess if that's fair to say. I don't know.
Obviously, everyone has times where they're more active and they're not.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, that's out of my hands. Like, I have no
they
say,
are doing
I
stuff behind the
guess.
scenes, yes.
So I mean, that's up to staff type of stuff. So
right.
Also,
I can't get much of opinion there. So
in regards to Winter, I don't know about you, Wolfie, but I think Winter is actually very often in game, like way more than others of us. I think Winter was one of the most active mods in game in regards to CTF.
Yeah, I see her late at night, like EST sometimes.
Yeah, like I think the statistic showed that she was really active. So I don't know if you just missed her.
Yeah, it could be time
I'm
zone.
not. Maybe that, yeah.
Yeah, I think most of her activity does come from later on. Whenever I've been on, I've seen her then around those times. So
Also,
I mean, could be.
Sorry,
No, I just said could be. Go on.
What Winter does do regularly is team stuff. Like she puts out the what's it called? The team update thread. Currently, it is not that much work because of like how little happens in the team scene currently. But for I think 1.5, 2 years, maybe even ever since she was there, she's been doing the updates for the team system. We also still have Hannah. Okay, see you then. We also still have Hannah, which is doing work for us. So they are doing work behind the scenes. Yeah, fair enough, Wolfie. It's good you bring that in.
What did he say?
Well, just that he barely sees Winter.
Oh, okay.
But then again,
didn't-
so, yeah, sorry.
I was just wondering, didn't he have 2 questions that he? I don't know. I thought you said.
No, there were 2 messages.
Oh, okay.
Part of
Okay.
it's the same thing. But yeah, I don't want to like turn this into a big discussion because both of them aren't here, and that would just be unfair to them. Okay, I think that concludes our Q&A. We ran out of questions to discuss. We will create a follow-up thread where we ask you guys questions that you can answer if you like. And I think that should be it for now. Does any one of you want to say any closing words?
No, I mean, these questions were awesome. I think this is like an awesome thing to do. Yeah, maybe we could have like a little summary type thing also.
Yeah.
Tiny thing.
I don't think we expected that many questions when we were putting out the thread, so thank you guys for really asking these many questions, and we hope that the answers we delivered were satisfactory, and
we can do this again in the future at some point.
We should do this again, yeah.
I think it's good to have that, have the like communication with the community, and you guys are being listened to, just to like reiterate that, like reworks are watched and everything.
Yeah. Okay, I think our Q&A is over for now.
Yeah.
And thank you very much for your attention and listening to us. This will be available as video, I think, as a clip. So if you didn't catch the Q&A, it's been 2 hours or something.
1.5 actually. Way more efficient than last time.
Oh, okay.
Quite good.
So you can read up on that. I think we can also include timestamps so people aren't too lost in those 1.5 hours.
Yep.
Cool. Okay. So we'll definitely have these in the future, the Q&As. So have a nice weekend, and we'll talk to each other soon.
See you.
Have a Brawl-tastic day!